Hello, all my gaming dude-arinos, and welcome to The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1 review. The long-awaited second season of The Last of Us is finally here, as we get to witness what happens to Joel and Ellie 5 years after the ending of the first game? The first season? Both? Both. This is your official spoiler warning. I will not be only reviewing and breaking down what happened in episode 1 of season 2, but also talking about the parallels and differences from part 2 of the game and what happens in that game. So if you don't want to hear any of those spoilers, I encourage you to, stop watching now. The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1, Future Days, which is a game reference to the song Future Days by Pearl Jam. For those who don't know, Neil Druckmann, the story writer for both Part 1 and Part 2 of The Last of Us games, is a huge Pearl Jam fan, and Future Days song is a huge part of the game and definitely interestingly absent from this first episode of the season. I imagine it'll show up in due time, but it sets the foundation of the story, and not having it in the first episode definitely feels a little off to me. However, with that being said, we pick up at the end of season 1 with Joel swearing to Ellie that the lie he told her about what happened at the Salt Lake City hospital was true. And while Ellie carries a pained look of skepticism, she falls in line and follows him back to Jackson and the community Maria and Tommy have built there. Then we get our first and our maybe biggest shift from the game, with us traveling back to Utah and seeing the aftermath of Joel's destruction and what's left of the Fireflies outside of the hospital 3 days after he left with Ellie. And here's where we get to see Caitlin Dever as Abby for the very first time. And while some have been so quick to voice their frustration that she lacks the physical stature of strength that we saw with Abby in the game, you cannot deny the air of anger and vengeance that is burning in her eyes as we get our first glimpse of Abby and see her internally wrestling with what they've just been through. Along with Abby, we get our first introduction to Manny, Nora, Mel, and Owen, the reduced but also most important members to the story of the Salt Lake City crew. The debate is what's next steps to take, all while the only thing on Abby's mind is revenge. And I think visually, this shot is important to establish Abby's mindset. While the four stare forward at the graves and contemplate next course of action, Abby is staring backward, demanding revenge. And Owen promises he will help her hunt down and kill Joel, but encouraging them to travel to Seattle first and join up with a man named Isaac and the group he leads there. Abby hangs a firefly pendant on one of the crosses marking the grave and tells Owen, "Slowly. We will kill him slowly."
Slowly.
What?
When we kill him, we kill him slowly.
Now, when I first watched the scene, it didn't quite feel right to me. Since it isn't in the game at all, it's hard to compare it to the game, but it was important from a show perspective to introduce this group. In the game, we meet Abby and Owen first, after they've made it to Jackson, not knowing who they are or why they are there, but knowing they are looking for someone they suspect to be there. Now, in the show, there is no doubt who they are and why they are coming to Jackson. While this may makes sense from a show perspective, the shock of not understanding and then learning why Abby kills Joel halfway through the game is such a big part of her story arc and allows you as the player to empathize with her. And while we don't know yet why she's so angry at what Joel did, outside of killing their whole group, we are still given early insight into the motive to hunt him down 5 years later. So then we flash forward 5 years and we pick back up with Ellie, interestingly and intensely sparring with a man twice her size in a barn in Jackson. As she wrestles him into submission, we get our first glimpse of young Mazzino as Jesse, as he reminds her that when someone taps out after the fight is over. And this scene is also something new to the story. While we learn throughout the part 2 of the game that Ellie is in better physical condition and a lethal individual, we now get to see as the viewer of the show how hard she was working to get there. This also feels like our first opportunity to see where Ellie is at mentally. Jesse mentions Joel and that she has her sparring partner go easy on her because he didn't want to answer to Joel if she got knocked out, and you can visibly see the anger that is induced with the idea that Joel is trying to control not only what happens to her, but how others treat her. We know, those of us who have played the game, that at this point in the story, Ellie has learned the truth as to what happened at the Salt Lake City hospital, and her and Joel's relationship is really completely fractured. And Ellie reacts here to Jesse with more fire than we really see her give off in the game. It's well established that there are differences personality-wise in both Joel and Ellie from the game versus the show. And I think this is really our first time seeing that in Season 2. Ellie is much more quiet, awkward, and reserved in the game. Maybe even shows of signs of lacking confidence in herself. While this Ellie is a bit more charismatic as she boasted how well she did in the fight and told Jesse to stop having her sparring partner take it easy on her. And then we get our first visual shot of Jackson, and it's perfect. It's Jackson from the game. They do such an amazing job of showing and reminding you that while this town is trying to thrive in a post-apocalyptic world, they still have their limitations as there's a lack of equipment and resources to keep up with all the work needed. We see them crack open an assumed water pipe under the ground, and you can audibly hear every homeowner that's ever dealt with roots and pipes under their foundations groan as they know the pains of dealing with such headaches. More on this broken pipe dream later. As we get our first look at Joel 5 years into the future, we also get another big shift in terms of social dynamics from the game to the show. Dina, who is marvelously played by Isabella Merced, and Joel interacting or even giving the semblance of a friendship as he calls her kiddo as she enters the room shows that there are more than just acquaintances in Jackson. In the game, we often hear Dina asking Ellie questions about Joel because she didn't know him on any level. But here, we not only have them interacting, we have her asking him why Ellie is mad at him. Joel looks at her quite suspiciously, I would say, and comments that shouldn't she know since they are friends? Dina quickly admits that she really doesn't, and Joel brushes it off as her being 19, and that it'll all be fine one day. But then he quickly turns the narrative, making it at Ellie's fault, telling Dina he tries and that she's just being difficult, and questioning to her, what did he do to make her act that way? And then he says, I can't be held responsible for another person's emotional state, which again is a confusing take, knowing why she really is mad, unless this is just simply his way of trying to continue to justify what he did and put the blame on her, as Dina points out. Really just him coping with what he's learned from Gale in therapy. And I think really Neil Druckmann states this kind of clearly in the after show breakdown that Joel has really bought into the idea that what he did was right. And ultimately, I don't know how I feel about this dialogue outside of him maybe covering for himself, since it's evident Dina doesn't know what happened. And maybe we'll understand more in the future as we see where the story goes. But what I do know is that telling all this to Ellie's best friend was probably not the most ideal move, knowing how close they really are. Now, one fun Easter egg here in this scene, though, is Joel teaching Dina how to repair a breaker on a radio. And for those of us who played the game, we know this is an important piece of the story in the future. From here, we then see Ellie using Tommy's sniper rifle, which is again another nod to the game and the flashback we get with Ellie helping him clear out some infected outside of the city. Here, though, we find out that Joel wants Ellie off patrol and on the wall, and Ellie adamantly pushes back against this idea. She tells Tommy that she should be out there because she's immune, and again, we see a big shift in terms of personality. When Tommy tells her she swore not to talk about it, she screams as loud as she can that she's been bit and she's immune. Ellie in the game never told anyone that she was immune. While she hated carrying that secret and And that burden, she understood the gravity of what it would mean if people knew. And her yelling it, even if no one was around, just felt odd to me. My guess is she's still not told anyone, but the way she recklessly just shouted it gave off a bit of an immaturity that Ellie just really didn't have in the game. I didn't mind it, I just noting that it was different. We then get to see Joel be Big Uncle Joel and interact with his nephew, showing again another light-hearted side of Joel we don't see in the game at all. I like seeing them come off as fatherly, but also again, just different from the game. And then again, a new scene, not in the show, but one I think as maybe gamers we've been really waiting for, and also kind of reaffirms this difference in personality of Joel, is his interaction with the character Gale, played by the beloved Catherine O'Hara. Now, she is taking on the role of therapist, which I think we'd all figured out before the episode came out was going to be who she was to Jackson. And as they sit down to their appointment, she offers Joel a drink of whiskey or tea, and Joel chooses the whiskey. They cheers cups as Joel asks her what the occasion is, and she lets him know it's her birthday. And it's the first time in the scene Joel looks a bit uncomfortable. He pays her in some really dank weed, which she points out that Eugene, who is a notorious weed grower and smoker in the game, could grow buds the size of pine cones in the winter. I would personally love to see that. And then Joel questions if a therapist is allowed to drink in an appointment, and she tells him no, but she's woke up sad, and this is the first birthday she's celebrated in 41 years without her husband. Cue Joel, again looking uncomfortable for a second time, and then dives into his frustration with how Ellie is treating him, won't talk to him, eat dinner with him, essentially treating him like he's a stranger or asshole. And we again get to see how his relationship with Dina is different in show versus the game. He said she talks to him, looks up to him, makes him feel like a good guy, makes him feel human. He says Dina understands him and feels more like his kid than Ellie, but that she's not. Gale quickly also points out that neither is Ellie. And we again see another look of uncomfortableness on Joel's face. Gale then says she wants to try a different approach, and to be honest, that he keeps grouching on about a 19-year-old being a 19-year-old. And Joel says, aren't you, supposed to be validating me? And she says yes, but that she isn't going to do that anymore because he's been lying to her. Which for anyone who has ever been in therapy knows that you sort of make a pact to be honest with your therapist about everything, as it's the only way for them to really understand what's going on and help you work through it. Gale then admits that she's also been lying to Joel, and that she's scared to say it out loud, to which she admits knowing that Joel shot and killed her husband, Eugene, and that she resents him for it. No, hates him for it. And for the fourth time, we see uncomfortable Joel face. And while she admits she knows he had no choice, she can't forgive him for what he did. And there's one key line here where she says, I've said it, it's out there, I can't take it back, but maybe I can now make things right with you. This very much lines up with what we know to be of the last conversation that Ellie has with Joel before he dies. And I think that will find its way back into the narrative. She then tells Joel to say something that he's afraid to say.
I can help you. Say it out loud, no matter what it is, no matter how bad. I promise I will help. Did you do something to her? Did you hurt her? Then what? What did you do?
saved her.
So while we don't know why Eugene is killed, Some are speculating he's infected. Some are speculating that he kills him because Eugene knows what Joel did, and being a former Firefly, he has connections to what happened in Salt Lake City. We know we'll see Eugene in the show, so it will be interesting to see how that all plays out with this adaptation of the story. Fast forward to Dina coming to get Ellie to go on their patrol on the Alpine Run. Dina mentions to Ellie looking like Curtis and Viper with all the hardware she's wearing, and that she plans to watch that with Joel tomorrow, and that Ellie should come join them, which of course Ellie quickly blows off. This again was an interesting change from the game. In the game, Ellie is explaining Curtis and Viper to Dina. Dina has no idea that it is Joel's favorite show, favorite movie. So for Dina to be aware, to be watching that with Joel is a big dynamic shift from the relationship standpoint, but one that I find very intriguing. We also, on patrol, get to see Ellie's ex-girlfriend from the game Kat for the first time, who is leading their patrol run. The topic of the dance comes up, and Dina casually brings up her going to the dance with Kat since they are both gay and used to be together, and Ellie adamantly says no to this idea. Dina coyly implies that she must be into someone else and that she can just go to the dance with her instead. The confused Ellie asks, shouldn't you be going with Jesse? But Dina confirms that they are broken up again, and at least for now. The patrol finds some bloody tracks which lead to a dead bear eaten by infected as Dina brings back bad jokes that we so endearingly love about this game.
Hey, what do you call grizzly's ribs? Barbecue.
Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
Barbecue?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Instead of reporting back to Jackson, Dina and Ellie confidently decide to go investigate and take out any infected that they find, all while jokingly making their way inside. Showing again the difference in the cautious personality of Ellie from the game to the more cocky and confident one of the show. Despite that, we get probably my favorite nod to players from the game they added to the show, as they enter the grocery store to take out the clickers inside by stealth. While silently working up a plan to take out the two clickers, we see Ellie grab an old Bud Light beer bottle to throw for a distraction, since we know clickers can't see but have deathly hearing. But first, Ellie also comes across the beloved Employee of the Month board, as we get to see the goodest boy reprising his role as the best employee in the month of July in 2003. And after taking out the clickers, just like in the game, we witness Ellie fall through the ceiling, though this time, instead of a small horde below her, she's confronted with probably the scariest infected in the game, the Stalkers. These infected are somewhere in their evolution between runners and clickers. However, they have some level of intelligence that we've not seen before in other infected. They manage to hide in the shadows from you until the very last second when they surprise attack you from behind. Terrifying. While Dina searches for a way down, Ellie wrestles with her attacker and manages to kill it, but not before taking another bite from an infected to the stomach, reaffirming the idea that she's still immune. Ellie and Dina report what happened back to the council and inform them of this new form of infected that they need to be aware of. I'm sure this will also come into play in the future episodes. And from there, we go to the scene that I think I'm most unsure about how I feel about it. After cutting open the bite wider to make it look less like a bite and then sewing herself up, we find Ellie writing in her journal about Dina and not wanting to fuck things up with her. Her journaling is interrupted when Joel knocks on her door, and then we see our next really big shift in what happened in the game to what's happening in the show. It's a small and relatively uneventful interaction, but seeing Joel coming in her house and carrying on a string of uncomfortable small talk with her was just sort of bizarre. A lot of why I struggle with this scene is because I know how the game plays out.
Tell me, what happened here? If you lie to me one more time, I'm gone. You will never see me again.
But if you tell me the truth, I'll go back to Jackson. No matter what it is. Just say it. Joel.
Making a vaccine would have killed you. So I stopped them.
Oh my God. Don't you fucking touch me! I'll go back. But we're done.
And this is Gamers is where we understand her mindset to be, that their relationship is over. And from what we understand, Joel has respected that and maybe tried to look out for her from a distance, but for the last year has given her space. So seeing them interact, even in the brief moment, is sort of confusing and a bit uncomfortable to me. Maybe how she finds out or how she responds in the show is different and will make this make more sense. Or maybe it's from a show perspective that they have less time to tell the story, so they need to give them more screen time, even if it doesn't fit the original narrative. But to me, what makes the final part of this game, the story, so impactful is that there are no more interactions between Joel and Ellie until we learn of the final scene at the end of the game. And all of the pain and Ellie's revenge path make perfect sense. With all that being said, we get the long anticipated dance scene, and man, did they nail this one. They literally followed the script from the game down to every word and interaction, and it came across live so perfectly. Our biggest change here is when. In the game, we see this scene as a flashback as the game kicks off the morning after the dance. And while it carries so much meaning in terms of how the game ends, seeing it here really does work.
Every guy in this room is staring at you right now.
Maybe they're staring at you.
They're not.
Maybe they're jealous of you.
No reason to be. I'm not a threat.
Oh, Ellie. I think they should be terrified of you.
Yikes.
What did you just say?
Get the hell out of here.
Seth, let's take a walk. Come on. Let's go.
Are you okay?
What is wrong with you? I don't need your fucking help.
With that being said, and as great as the scene really is, it's the scene after that solidifies the pain of what's to come as Ellie leaves the party to head home and sees Joel on his porch with his guitar and stops to glare at him with that anger and vitriol in her eyes before walking past to her home while Joel reels with his emotions. The eye contact they make, him being able to see just how mad she is, really sets the tone for what's to come. And then we get the ending to set up what I'm sure will be a grueling second episode as we see the burst pipe with the roots from the beginning being more than just roots, but the connection to the infected. And then our final shot of the Salt Lake City crew making their way to Jackson, being led by Abby and Owen. So overall thoughts on the episode, I loved it. While The Last of Us series are without a doubt my all-time favorite games, it's hard at times to see the changes they make to the story or the characters, but I also have to remind myself that they aren't exactly the same and do my best to enjoy each for what it is. And what they've done in episode 1 works and works well. I know I've highlighted some key points and key aspects of how the game and show differ, but at the end of the day, the show works and the story that we are going to see will be emotional and hard and gut-wrenching for us to process. And with that, I'm nervously anxious for what's ahead, knowing how rough it's going to be, but also curious to see if the changes they make continue to work. Thanks to all my gaming duderinos for tuning in to this review of Season 2, Episode 1 of The Last of Us. That's it for my review. Catch me next Sunday for my live stream right after the airing of Episode 2. We'll continue to play through Part 2 of the game, so come ready to hang out, talk about the game, talk about how you're feeling, your frustrations, the things you liked, the things you didn't like. We're here to talk about the thing we love, and that's The Last of Us. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.